And welcome to the second episode of the Chel Stars podcast. We had such a good time making the first one here that we just decided, you know what, why not run it back? We're back to here today. We have a very busy schedule coming. And thanks to all of your kind feedback from our loyal followers here, we've learned that we did not introduce ourselves well. So I think we're going to definitely start with that today. I'll start us off and then I'll pass it over to everyone here. We've got full guest load today, even a special guest who we will introduce in a second. So I'll begin. So my name's Max. I mentioned that last time, but what can I say? You learned I'm also a Canucks fan. I can shout out my dad for that because I grew into the sport of hockey ever since a young kid, and watching them and, well, watching the painful losses, unfortunately. But there's lots of promise for the upcoming season. So that's how I began here. I'll pass it off now to Mikey. Introduce yourself.
Cool. What's going on, guys? Mikey. I had a blast just like everybody else doing the first podcast, and the feedback that we received from a few people was actually quite helpful. And just a little bit about myself. I am also a Canucks fan, as you guys know, longtime Canucks fan since I was a kid. And just like Max, through the pain and kind of suffering of the 2011 playoff loss, and then hiring Jim Benning and him making all those moves and doing what he did as a Canucks fan, it kind of hurt, but we're still moving, and the future is definitely promising. And I'm just excited to be back for episode 2.
Perfect. Great intro. I'll pass it off to Corey now.
Hey guys, Corey here. People call me Seabird. Been a self-proclaimed hockey nerd for quite some time. Also an addicted hockey pool junkie. And thank you, Mikey, for bringing up that 2011 memories. Just had an emotional roller coaster pass by me thinking of that. Obviously a big Canucks fan myself. And looking forward to sharing my thoughts and feelings with all you listeners out there on the podcast. Thanks.
Perfect. Yes. 3 times now we've mentioned 2011. That's just great. All right. I'll pass it over to Kyle now.
Perfect. Thank you guys very much. I had a really fun time the first episode, and shout out Corey for being the commissioner of all of our fantasy leagues. That's huge. Obviously, you guys probably gathered I'm a diehard Avalanche fan, have been for the last 18 years, and finally we weren't absolute garbage this year, so that was great to watch. 2011 doesn't affect me at all, but yeah, there were some dark years, but we're in a good period now. So thanks. Right back to you, Max.
Alright, glad we keep mentioning that. Oh, and now we're passing over to our special guest today, who just, what do you know, he's a Boston fan, so I'll pass it over to MJ.
Oh, what up, guys? My name is Mike. They call me MJ. I'm a diehard Bruins fan. Thanks to my dad, he got me into hockey. And I just like talking hockey, and I'm excited to be here.
Perfect, thank you. Welcome to our show, and this can be a busy one, so we got lots to talk about today. We'll kind of go over, obviously when we left off, we were just 2 days before free agency, so we've seen a boatload of signings. I think just over $1 billion spent for years to come from the NHL teams. So we're going to go over most of the key signings, kind of going team by team. And then we're going to talk about the remaining free agents, because as we know, it's not over yet. And then we'll kind of have a brief outro. Perfect. So I'll pass it over to Corey, who will kind of lead us off into where we're going from here.
Thanks, Max. So the plan, we're going to travel west to east and across the divisions here, and kind of give a rundown of how we thought the teams did the start of the off season here with trades and signings and whatnot. So we're going to start in the Pacific. We've got Calgary, Edmonton, LA, Vegas, Vancouver, San Jose, Anaheim, and Seattle. And we'll talk maybe not about every single team, but just kind of hit the 3 to 5 teams that made some big moves. So I think we'll start with Calgary. Obviously, a lot going on there. So what do we got?
Yeah, so I mean, we'll get into the big free agent that they missed out on, obviously. But they lost out on, well, Gaudreau. We gave them the red carpet of everything they wanted. So other than that, they haven't really done a whole lot, guys. How about you give me your guys' opinions on what they're looking like now?
Time for a rebuild.
Yeah,
Ooh.
that's
okay.
Hot take, but
they got no prospects. They got a bunch of aging players. Kachuk is the only player that's got any value on that team. So, and Markstrom.
What about Lindholm?
he got some good value.
Is he going to be? Is he going to be good without Gaudreau there? I think so. I think he was a great player the past couple of years, even when Johnny wasn't a great player for the Calgary Flames. But
yeah, I mean,
I'll,
go ahead, Mikey.
Yeah, I don't know. Just to kind of add on to that, I mean, like, they still have a couple good players, obviously, and I still think they're going to be pretty decent. Johnny Gaudreau just came off a 15-point season, I believe, something crazy like that. So it kind of surprised me that he didn't want to stay in Calgary. And, who knows next season what would have happened if he would have stayed and if Kachuk signs again and they got, a couple additions to their team. I kind of just feel bad for Markstrom in this sense and Tanev because they both signed there, leaving the Canucks just, wanting to win a cup. And now their star player is on Columbus. So that's kind of my take with it. I still think they got a little bit left in them, but I do think as well, like Kyle said, a rebuild is kind of needed.
And, I almost think they dodged a bit of a bullet there without signing a player to a big contract for a lot of term that may or may not have paid off in the end. Was my take there.
Yeah, I mean, that contract will be interesting. He is already somehow into his late 30s or late 20s, so obviously handing out that much term for a guy like that, you just never know how it'll pan out.
But I mean, no doubt about it, they have a vacancy. They have a large vacancy to fill, so if it's up to a roster player to fill that spot, and or else they're taking a big step back this year.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting division to watch, that's for sure.
Let's shuffle a little bit north, right up to Edmonton. Obviously, some big moves there. So what do we got there, Max?
Well, I think we almost all knew, the whole hockey world knew before free agency even started, that they landed Jack Campbell for 5x5. Who knows what the NHL with the whole tampering accusations thrown out there, but either way, it's signed. He's there. Jack Campbell, they finally got their goalie. What do you think, guys?
Hey, MJ, do you think Campbell will keep them in a contending spot?
It depends with their defense.
Yeah.
With them losing Duncan Keith, I mean, they got Nurse, CC Berry. They re-signed Brett.
Kulak.
Yeah, Kulak. They got the young kid, Bouchard.
Oh, right, yeah.
I can see him making the playoffs, but not going as far as last year.
It'll be so interesting to see what happens with McDavid, Draisaitl if they fall short of a conference final again or Stanley Cup final.
Honestly, I was just going to bring that up. That's actually such a good point. It's like, well, what do they do? Like, they want to win a cup. They've been in Edmonton for years, and what's the farthest they've made it, right? Like, something has to be done
right now, right?
Yeah.
Like McDavid, by that time, he'll be 26. Draisaitl's going to be 27.
Yeah.
That's like half their career done.
Every year they fail is another year taken off that contract as it looms ever so closer. And you just got to think, how much can they take before they get fed up with the organization? So But I like the signing, though, Jack Campbell. I think it'll be interesting to see how he does with such a prominent starter role. He didn't do as great, I would say, in Toronto, at least in the second half of the year. But really, time will tell with that and their organization. We mentioned they got Kulak. They just signed today, actually, Janmark, so a decent depth option for them, which they never
And
get.
they brought back Evander Kane.
Of course, that's the big one, too. So
4 years, $5 million.
It's a pretty reasonable contract, if I do say so myself.
Quick thing.
Yeah.
Quick thing. I thought Janmark and Yarncroc were the same guy. So like when I saw that one of them got signed, another one got signed, like an hour later, I was so confused.
Yeah, close, but
close.
Did Yarncroc go to Toronto, I believe?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
He did.
I mean, same 3 letters of the last name, but
That's what I'm saying.
I don't think I've ever confused them.
All right, let's head to Van City and let's talk about our boys, the Canucks here.
Oh boy, this is gonna be a big one. I think Mikey should start us off with this.
Oh, I'm honestly like not even gonna be biased, nothing like that, but I'm excited because looking at their core group right now, and if Miller re-signs, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but if he does end up re-signing with the Canucks because that's their plan, I believe, so I've heard, their forward core is looking good with the additions of Kuzmenko, and I can never pronounce his name.
I think it's pronounced Ilya Mikheyev.
Mikheyev, who's Mikheyev coming from Toronto. He's a fast skater, like unbelievably fast, and a great penalty killer.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Canucks could have a strong penalty kill with Miller and him, and
Hughes
whoever
had
else
a
they
big
had on
role on it
defense.
too.
Absolutely, Pettersson did too. Horvat as well. I think what the management's done helped the team so far. Obviously, there might be some more tweaks and moves because they are looking at defensemen, which they need. But their forward core as of right now, with the players signed, it's looking pretty good.
Yeah.
What are your guys' thoughts too about that?
Yeah, we didn't mention this because we didn't go over too many depth options in the last podcast, but I thought Lazar would be a great option for the Canucks to go after, and sure enough, they got him. And I was pretty stoked, yeah. Oh, yeah, it's a good topic.
He's a good 4th liner for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think their top 6 is really, really nice. Like looking on paper, they have a beautiful top 6. We obviously know what we have with Demko and net, which is a solid, consistent, young goaltender. I think just like last season, our defense is a little lacking, and I'm not super confident about the puck movement through our defense. So I think that's still the weak point of the Canucks.
Yeah. I do think they're not done, though, this offseason. I think with how many forwards they have, I think one of them is going to be moved. Is there any more defense on? Well, who? That's a good question. I mean, I don't think Miller's on the trade block anymore, at least. Unless an offer comes by they can't pass off. But I think Garland's been a big question mark for a while. Pearson ideally would need to be moved. He's making too much money to be too far down the depth chart. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. We could get a decent asset for him. He hasn't really done a ton for the Canucks. He's been a good locker room guy
reliable
with everybody, and in that sense. But when we signed him, he was on Pittsburgh and LA, and he was scoring goals, right? He was scoring goals for them, and we signed him to do that. And I don't think he's kind of lived up to that, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, it's a tough position for him now because now he's where do you see him now? I don't see him anymore up. More past the 4th line with how many additions they've added. Yeah, so it'd be interesting.
Can I play devil's advocate for your guys' Stanley Cup parade you're planning?
Let's shift focus to always in the spotlight, Vegas Golden Knights.
Oh boy.
Did I just get shut down, Corey?
I didn't hear what we were saying. Sorry.
I just said, can I play devil's advocate for the Stanley Cup parade you guys are
laughed.
planning?
and then just move
Sorry,
on.
by all means, go ahead.
I don't think Mikheyev is going to be as good as you guys think. I think that was a huge overpay. I think he's a third liner, a guy who's going to get 6 breakaways a game and maybe score on none of them. So
Wow.
He's Michael Gardner, is what you're saying? I think, and that's a valid point. I mean, is it 4 years?
Yeah.
4 years, 4.75 a year.
Okay,
Yep.
so he scored 20 goals in about 50 games. That's about a 30-goal scorer. I really haven't watched him. He either flourished on a high-scoring Toronto team,
Yep.
or he made the most out of less minutes. So, yeah, it could really go either way, and I don't necessarily disagree with you, Kyle.
Yeah, I heard
but
when
he
it came
does
to his
have,
advanced stats for shooting, they weren't pretty.
That's
So
I also
Okay.
heard he likes to hit the goalie's chest.
interesting.
So I guess we'll see.
Yeah,
But he
Yeah.
does have Kuzmenko in pods.
yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'd be interesting because I know there was always reports out of Toronto that he's been requesting a trade to get more ice time. So I know he's always been limited over there. So we'll have to see if he's been, using the ice time well, or we'll see how it translates over here. It's a big
All
money though
depends.
to throw at him.
I think it depends. Obviously, Pettersson having a full off season where he's not nursing an injury
Yes.
or like coming off surgery is going to be
Or
absolutely huge.
needing
He's
a
going to
contract.
He's going to be absolutely. He's going to be a monster next year. Brock Besser, that one's up in the air. He could go either way. JT Miller in a contract year. He's going to be going off.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to what Kuzmenko and Podkolzin can bring to the table, that's up in the air too. Hopefully Hughes continues to take a step forward for you guys. Defense core other than that is weak.
Hopefully Myers
Demko's going
can
to play out of his mind.
play some defense.
Can I see you guys making the playoffs? Absolutely. I think Canucks will be in a wild card spot because I think Calgary has fallen out of the playoffs. I think it's going to be Kings, Knights, Canucks.
Nice.
And then maybe mix in but San Jose's not even there. So
No, Vegas. Well, you said Knights, right? Kings,
Yeah.
Knights. Okay.
Kings, Knight, Oilers, Canucks, shall I say?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I
So
see
they'll-
that. Yeah.
so that'll be the mix there. So
I think they'll be
we'll see.
real exciting this year. Perfect. And that we can segue.
Corey,
into
where are you
Vegas,
taking us?
yeah.
Well, trying to move us along. Any with the Golden Knights? Any thoughts on there and what they've done?
Shipping Pacioretty out of town for a bag of pucks.
That-
Not
that was
even.
it.
And guy I went to high school with, Dylan Coughlin, as well in that trade.
Okay.
Oh, shit.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I
Didn't
mean,
talk to him once. I just want to put that out there.
other than that, there wasn't a whole lot of signings over in Vegas. They obviously re-signed Riley Smith for 3 years, $5 million a year. So essentially, they almost decided to keep Smith over Pacioretty. Take that as you will.
Wow, yeah.
And other than that, I mean, not a lot of other news coming out of there.
I think the thing is with Vegas, it's almost, are they doing too much? Are they screwing themselves over for the future with these big names? And, are they just paying for these big names? Like, how will Eichel do? Like, they're locked into Pietrangelo. And,
Oh, yeah.
looking at Robin Leonard's inconsistent performance, they may have been better just to ride Fleury. And, what's their cupboard like? I think they've traded so many draft picks now that for these big names, their window is right now.
Yeah, it's a
It's a tough position to be in because they've only known success. Like, they can't take a step back without the fan base possibly losing interest.
Yeah, I mean, it's
this is a big
I just
year
want
for
to touch on
Vegas.
that. Yeah, I just want to touch on, like, we talked about this a little bit before the podcast, but the Instagram post that was sent out about some players not happy with the management's decision of shipping certain players out or how they're handling their business. And touch on that a little bit because that is obviously correlated with Vegas. And I can kind of see why the players would be upset because there's been constant trades for pretty much nothing. Like they shipped Fleury out, Pacioretty. I know he was injured for, most of the season last season, but he's still a good goal scorer and a player on your team that you honestly need, right? That's kind of What do you guys think about that whole kind of ordeal, MJ? What do you think about that?
I mean, their window's closing soon because they're in cap trouble. 100% they're in cap trouble. Like Eichel's getting $10 million, Mark Stone's getting 9.5. Half their players are getting $5 million. It's just this goal. They have a couple years left to try and get a cup, and after that, they're in cap trouble. So,
do you guys think they were thinking about this when this was all going on? Because this isn't happening for Seattle, as another expansion team who drafted pretty poorly, but they're kind of on the come up with like Shane Wright, a couple additional signings, which we'll get into. But yeah, I don't know. I think like MJ said, Vegas is they wanted to start off strong, but did they really have a plan afterwards?
I think I wouldn't doubt any other GM in the league. Like these decisions you say might not are not the players aren't happy. I don't think there's another GM that wouldn't be making moves similar. Like it's a business, and if they win next year or the next couple of years, no one's gonna care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, at the end of the day, like MJ said, like this is their window, and Pacioretty was a cap move, just as when Tampa Bay moved JT Miller so they could keep Braden Point. So they're just making business decisions, and the hope is that they'll win. Because if not, they're going to be cap hell in the next few years. So
yeah, really. Like I said, big year for them. Because if they can go on a deep run or maybe even pull it off, then no one really cares about what all this beforehand. But it's
with Bruce Cassidy. I'll mention again. We talked about a last podcast, but since MJ's on here now, I know he was upset that Bruce Cassidy left his Bruins, but
well, he didn't choose the league.
You never know how it'll work out with Vegas. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bruce is a good coach, though. He's a good coach.
He's a good coach. Yeah, he'll. Yeah, I think he has an awesome top six to work with and a great defense core. Like if they can stay healthy this year, I don't see them having an issue. Being a lot better than they were last season. I think it's kind of interesting, like the different approaches between the Knights and the Kraken, where like Vegas really built through free agency and trades and like really smart asset management, but Seattle's approach right from the start was basically in rebuild mode and try to get assets to the draft, which is how teams win Stanley Cups, right? Like Colorado, all their key players built through the draft. Tampa Bay through the draft. If we go back another 5 to 10 years, we're looking at like LA, Pittsburgh, Chicago, their core all built through the draft, and then kind of supplemented with the free agents instead of how Vegas is doing it. So
much different, a much more slow approach, but they're already seeing some good signs over there.
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to throw at you guys is, I kind of alluded to this beforehand, but I want to keep it a secret. So how about I tell you what the whole Pacioretty, kind of like the last few trade breakdowns look like for Vegas? We're gonna say so in and out for them. So they got a couple years of Pacioretty. During that time, they won some playoff runs, but never did much of anything with it. What they've sent out, however, is a totally mind-boggling thing to look at. They've sent out Nick Suzuki. We know who that is. Bona fide star now in Montreal. They've sent out Thomas Tatar, Dylan Coughlin, Kyle's friend, as we heard.
Not friend. I didn't talk to him once, but but I saw him in the locker bay from time to time.
Yeah, and second rounder. It's a lot for just a couple of years of no success. And that can go deeper if you look at what they paid for Tatar, which was a first, a second, and a third rounder.
Yeah.
That's a lot for nothing.
I'm just so confused with like what future considerations could mean. There's no way it actually means nothing.
It basically
Like,
means nothing.
Maybe it's like a beer at a bar sometime, or
but it could be something, right? Like
it could
like
be.
I have a hard time believing they're just like, yeah, just take him, please.
Maybe down
Just
the
take
line.
this 40 goal scorer who is probably our best player over the last 2 years. Just take him, and a young defenseman too. Like,
Yeah.
The teams know that, and that it always happens to a team that's in the salary cap trouble, right? I guess what you're saying, it wasn't very much at all. Okay,
Yeah.
I get what you're saying.
It seems like the norm nowadays. You hear that, you see so many trades that are future considerations.
My
my whole thing is like, somebody else would have given more than nothing.
Yeah,
So the
not even a seventh.
future considerations has to mean something. Like maybe in a couple of years they're getting somebody back or something.
Yeah, maybe down the line when the cap goes up a bit more, we'll see some of these transpire. But
Yeah.
And
yeah.
just my point to, I think Kyle and Max, you guys talked about it. Like with Vegas, I think some of the reason we're seeing these bad deals is almost, if you compare them to, say, Colorado, which has kind of clearly had a plan with their rebuild, like Vegas has had so much unprecedented success right away, they're almost reacting to everything. Like, it's like they trade for Pacioretty. Wow, we got, a star in Pacioretty. And then Eichel's available. It's like, oh shit, like, should we get Eichel?
Yeah.
And then they do. And now it's like, okay, we got to dump someone for nothing. But who cares? We have Eichel. Like, they're almost reacting to all this, like, newfound success in a very odd way, in a very, it's a way we've never really seen before. Like, I think, Kyle, you're talking about building your team from the draft. It's like, well, they never had that. They built a Stanley Cup Finals team from an expansion draft. That alone is crazy.
Yeah,
So-
I'll give them props to
Yeah.
that. That was they did. They
you
knew what they were
know,
doing.
it's like, hey, I guess Eichel wants to come here because we're a good team. So it's very reactive and it's very newfound, I think. So I think that's why we're seeing some of these players going for cheap and like lots of just odd movement from that team.
Yeah, for all we know, they could be the ones to land JT Miller.
Who knows, right?
Right?
That
You
or
never know.
Kadri, fuck.
But yes, I'd like to move teams, move divisions. There's a lot of teams to talk about, so I think we'll touch just on a couple in the Central. Maybe let's start with the Stanley Cup winners, Colorado. Obviously re-signing a few players and still waiting on a few. Max, what we got there?
Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely pass this over to Kyle in a second here, but behind the scenes we won't see this, but almost the minute we finished recording our first podcast last week, Georgiev signed with the Avs. He re-signed for, what is it here, 3 years, 3.4 mil per. So Kyle, give me your immediate thoughts on that.
Oh, super stoked. Obviously, who knows how he's going to do this season. We talked about him a lot last week, and I think just giving him an opportunity to succeed is going to be huge. So yeah, that's that.
That's pretty much that. We mentioned it earlier, like last podcast about it, but another big one. They signed two of their pretty important, playoff warriors in Lehkonen and Nichushkin. Both some big deals. Nichushkin getting 8 years, 6.125 per, and Lehkonen getting 5 years at 4.5 mil per. Some pretty hefty deals, but I mean, two guys that play a key role in that team. So let me give me your thoughts on that, guys.
I think the Lehkonen signing is great. Like, he's a young player and he's already doing what he did in the playoffs plus the regular season. I can only see him going up from here, to be honest, and he's a great fit with the team.
Yeah, he's really found his stride there because everyone mentions it. You see it everywhere, but only like 2-3 years ago where he had 0 goals. Crazy to think where he's at now.
Mm-hmm.
He's also somebody that Sakic was targeting for years. Like last trade deadline, he was kind of checking out Lehkonen because he's just a solid all-around player, great advanced stats, just like a guy that you need on your team if you're going to win a cup. So locking him up long term is huge. And then a lot of people didn't like the Nichushkin contract. It was a little bit higher than I predicted, absolutely. But at the same time, like he's had probably 3 years now where he's been an absolute monster, 2 of which were like completely under the radar. This is the first year he's really stood out.
Analytically stood out, that's for sure.
Well, even analytically, like the last 3 years he's been like a very good performer. But this year, the actual like old stats that people look at,
as you would say, the eye test.
yeah, the eye test was really good as well. So yeah, just super exciting. Hoping. Well, I mean, I've been hearing rumors that Sam Girard could be getting moved in the next couple days. Possibly JT Compher as well, making room for Kadri to re-sign. So I don't think Colorado's done by any stretch. I'm happy that Kadri's giving the Avalanche time to find the best deals for those players and really keep the roster strong going forward.
There's a lot, I think if they can plan and prioritize Nathan McKinnon's next contract, which is probably an easy 10, at least.
At least, yeah.
Like that's a large increase from the 6'3" he's at now. So I think that should be their main priority, and then any other deal they sign now should be alongside like their prediction on that one.
Yeah, spot on there.
And
pretty deadly.
Yeah. Okay, and other looking else in the Central, let's talk about on the other spectrum, we have Chicago Blackhawks doing a lot of not acquiring, but Max, you go ahead and let us know what we're looking at there.
Acquiring wise, they did a little bit. I mean, they acquired Max Domi for 1 year and Thanasiu. I think I butchered that. Blackwell, Alex Stalock. They're going for basically the bare minimum, basically just to get to the cap floor, or at least a little bit above it. That way, at the deadline, they're gonna flip all these guys. I'm assuming they're tanking, and it's pretty evident.
Yeah, they're done.
I kind of want to hear MJ. MJ, what do you think? How do you think the Blackhawks are going to do? Obviously, they're not. We all know they're not going to do as well as they have in the past. But like shipping off Doc and a bunch of other guys. Like, what are your thoughts?
They're definitely gonna trade Patrick Kane and Taze at some point, either the next month or two, or at the deadline, because I do not see them being with the Blackhawks for the rest of the season. Because they legit traded everyone away to get picks in the prospects or whatever. So I see them tanking. They might land Bedard for next season.
Mm-hmm.
That would be huge.
That's surely what they're aiming for.
Yeah, I was going to say that's literally looks like their plan, like on paper, what the GMs and whoever. It looks like that's what they're doing. But I don't know why Max Domi signed there. Kind of confusing to me because pretty decent player. Yeah. He hasn't had the best seasons, but we know what he's capable of. He's he's a pretty good player.
There must unless there was no other offers, but I find that hard to believe.
He was signed on day one of free agency, so I really doubt that.
That's
true.
But if you think, or they might have just guaranteed to trade him to a playoff team or a contender.
Pretty much, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
So maybe that's what he's thinking. Maybe
being a part of an original six as well.
Well, he's going to get a lot of ice time, so maybe he's thinking he inflates his stat in a 1 year and gets dealt to a potentially contender.
Yeah,
that's exactly what I think.
Cage for a bit, and then
yeah. So
Yeah, that's what I think is going on. Is he's was just promised a certain amount of ice time because the past couple of teams he's been on have really chinsed him on that.
Yes.
So yeah, but big shout out to Chicago for recognizing that they are barely a playoff team or whatever, and just blowing it up. Like that's how you have to do it. You have to do a rebuild before you know they have to do a rebuild. Like
they have like no defense either. Seth Jones, and that's it.
Yeah.
And he's locked up. Oh yeah.
Yeah, they should have recognized it 1 year earlier. That's the only tidbit I can say.
Yep.
If they didn't trade for Seth Jones, they'd be in a different scenario right now.
I mean, I guess you never know with anything.
I mean, it's very true.
That's so brutal. That's just a GM trying to save his job and just handcuffing a franchise for the next 8 years.
Yeah. The fact that it only just kicked in this year too. Oof. And then you look at what Makar signed for. Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. How about you send us over to the next team?
Yeah. Not a ton of excitement with the rest of the Central, so I'm probably just gonna group them together. We have Wild, Blues, Stars, Preds, Jets, Coyotes. Any big names? Anything people want to touch on with these teams here?
Yeah, I mean, probably out of all those teams, not a lot of big signings. Not a lot of them could do much with their current cap crunch with the Wild and Blues. Dallas got Mason Marchment, pretty decent deal. I like that player. I'm not sure what direction they're trying. They definitely did well in Florida. It'd be interesting to see how he does in Dallas. Their direction is also very interesting.
Yeah, I feel like Dallas is just there. Like they'll make the playoffs, but like, are they gonna do anything with it? Like they have Ben and Sagan. They did have Klingberg, who doesn't look like he's re-signing, but they did have a good team, like by all means. But I just don't know what their kind of goal is.
Well, and we'll touch on this in a bit, Mike, but they also have a couple RFAs, very young, talented RFAs looking to bring back.
Two big ones.
Yes. So I think that'll be interesting to watch.
I didn't know that.
For that team. So.
Yeah, I mean,
it'll be interesting to see if Dallas's big boys can finally put together a good season. Sagan has just been.
Oh.
Yeah, that contract's looking rough.
Fantasy nightmare, hey Max.
Oh. Oh, don't you just no.
Yeah.
I'll just let the world know before we move on. Obviously,
I just want to say one thing real quick.
Yeah.
I have no idea what the Winnipeg Jets are doing. Like
that would have been my next.
They haven't really added anyone.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like they have to re-sign Dubois. I don't know how many years, but other than that, they're a team that did nothing really. And
they really should, at least performance-wise, they should be doing better. They got an all-class goalie, a talented forward group. Definitely with Scheifele and Dubois. You've got a couple. Dubois is a center. Did he play center or no?
Yep.
Yeah. So you've got that's a pretty solid 1-2.
Very
they
solid.
need a Vezina caliber goalie. They need to capitalize on this team they have right now.
His name's been on the trade block, Dubois.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna mention him later. There was reports today, I think that just came out, he attended the Montreal draft, assuming he would be traded.
Wow.
So that's just crazy. Yeah. Anyways, we can probably move on to the East now.
Yeah. Max, what were you going to say about your fantasy trade there?
Yeah. Oh, God. I don't want to remember it, but as you heard before, we run a fantasy league between all of us here, and Aaron and whatnot. This past season, I early on decided to trade Tyler Seguin for Chris Kreider, 1-for-1. I'll leave it at that. I'm pretty sure you can look at the stats and see how they both did.
That's a steal.
Yeah, I
Uh,
definitely won that trade.
safe
take
to
that.
say I did not win that trade at all in any respect. Not even any week, I don't think. Sagan won.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even think a single game he beat Kreider. So, pretty much every time I looked, Kreider has scored a power play goal. So, yeah.
Well, it takes a man to admit it. So.
Yeah, I'm not a good GM, apparently.
Dude, no, you're fine. I'm an awful GM.
Yeah, Kyle's made some
Yeah,
questionable moves.
we'll have
too,
to go
with me as
over
well.
in a
Yeah.
next podcast or two when it's a little slower in the NHL or fantasy league and some of the mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Corey.
All right, so we're going to take it to the Metro. I also want to thank our listeners for sticking with us as we get to the big fish finally. So we're going to take it to the Metro. We've got Carolina, New York Rangers, Islanders. We've got Pittsburgh, Washington, Columbus, New Jersey, and Philadelphia. So let's start right with the big fish. Let's talk about Columbus. So what are we looking at here, Max?
Well, I think it's fair we start. We already briefly mentioned him, but Johnny Gaudreau. They, as everyone says, they came from the top rope to snag him, and they got him for what almost everyone is assuming was below market value. 7 years, $9.75 million. Wow. That's all I can say.
Still kind of confused as why he chose them, but I mean, I get it, but I don't at the same time. Calgary, like we were talking about earlier, you know, like they still have potential. If he was on their team, they still have potential. Make a couple more moves, you'll be okay. But I don't know where he was going with that because I know Calgary offered him a lot. I think who else was in talks with him? Were the
Devils.
Islander, the Devil, yeah, the Devils, yeah.
Islanders, and well, Philly. But we'll get to that.
Yeah, so I don't know. Like, what do you guys think? How is he going to do with, you know, he's got Voracek, he's got Werenski, he's got some decent goaltending. Like, Columbus isn't bad. Yeah, Columbus isn't bad by I mean, Columbus isn't bad by all means, but I'm curious, what are you guys' thoughts on what is he going to do? Is he going to put up 115 points again?
No. Columbus is not making the playoffs.
Ooh,
They're not.
That's a good take. That's
Yeah.
a good take. How come?
I'd agree.
Because the Metro is a stacked division, and I
Yep.
don't see them making the playoffs at all this season.
Mhm.
That's what I think.
I think the thing that confused me most about the Gaudreau signing is he just doesn't line up with the prime of the team. Like
Yeah.
they've drafted really well the past couple of years, getting in Kent Johnson and that
Cole Sillinger.
exactly, yeah. Like between those two players, and just a couple other guys as well.
They had a great
Including,
first round this past year.
Yeah, exactly. And then including like Adam Boquist coming in as well. I'm just confused. I mean, I guess it sells tickets. That's what they need right now. But
Yeah.
It,
the prime just doesn't line up.
it almost seems, to your point, Kyle, that Gaudreau wanted to go to Columbus more, and Columbus kind of just took advantage of that situation and offered him something without really having their eye on him for a long time, maybe more than some of the other teams that were more closely linked to him.
Which, good for them. They do not land players like that very often.
No, absolutely not.
It's
Yeah.
big for Columbus, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
So-
that can encourage other free agents to come in the next few years, maybe those young players start producing, and maybe in 3
Yeah.
years they're going to make a run. But
That would be best case scenario, I think.
oh, absolutely.
The one
But-
But the
issue.
one signing
Oh God, yeah. Here
that
we
I
go.
do not like is the Gabranson signing.
I was just
Oh,
getting to that. It
here
was the
we
signing
Four
just
by
before
four
Gaudreau.
Like,
Yeah.
he's not that good.
No.
Yes,
Yes.
he's big and physical, but that's it.
Yeah,
Like,
7th defenseman, maybe 6.
Overpaid.
Mm.
Ridiculous.
Why do
I don't know what-
teams keep wanting him? Like, A team always wants him. Like, Mans gets traded all the time. Now he's signing
Yeah, he was
4-year
a first
deals.
round
When
pick
did
in
this happen?
2010, but like, he's not good.
And we all know from experience watching the Canucks what
Oh,
he was
God,
like on
yeah.
that. So, like, that's all I'm going to leave. I wanted to touch on that, but I'm glad MJ brought it up. We'll talk about more later, but I think that was definitely one of the biggest L's.
And he has a
in
10-team no trade list. Like,
You know what probably helped his case was that I don't know what really their roster looks like, but he's tough. He'll fight. They're signing a small star. So I think they wanted to add maybe a tough guy that's going to fight for a little bit of protection.
But for
And,
4 mil?
That's all I really got to put a positive spin on it. So that's
Yeah.
all I kind of got
Maybe
for
a
you.
good mentor, maybe, but I don't know.
Like,
too
that
much.
Good Branson signing was so early in the morning
Yes.
that, like, there's no way that they're like, yeah, we're signing Gaudreau. Let's just go out and sign Good Branson right now.
They were so confident, too. They were
Yeah.
so confident, too. Yeah, that's funny.
Like I said, that was
Unless-
before they had Gaudreau.
Unless they sign Good Branson, he put in a good word to Gaudreau. Who knows?
Yeah. They were a package deal. Gaudreau's like, I'm
Yeah.
only going where he goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Johnny took a pay cut just so then Good Branson could make 4 mil.
Good Branson's pain.
What
Half
are
the contract is going to get. Bro.
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, those are the two big signings for them. They had a couple of their first-rounders sign their entry-level deals, so maybe they make the lineup, but
And
it's going to be hard when Good Branson's getting paid now.
well, exactly, and that puts them in a tough position for Line A. Like they need to trade a
yeah.
player or two just to make the cap space. So we'll see how
Yeah,
that
bring him
goes.
back.
Okay, let's take a look at Carolina. Let's talk about maybe Kyle. You can take us through the trades that they made.
Absolutely. We already talked about it earlier. Max Pacioretty, Dylan Coughlin over to there, and they also got Brent Burns. So
Yes.
That's a big signing.
just big
Okay,
name
sorry.
ads for that team. Go for it.
Brent Burns he's San Jose. I feel like he did his time there. He did what he could. His plus minus isn't great because obviously he's playing on San Jose, which they could be better, to be honest. But Brent Burns as it's potential. He still has potential, I think. Like, he's obviously not in his prime anymore, but he can still play. And he's big. He's kind of physical,
Yeah.
and he'll help out. He'll help out for sure.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
like it, actually.
I quite like the Burns trade, and I believe San Jose is retaining salary. Maybe someone can confirm that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so its previous cap hit was 8 mil on San Jose.
Yeah.
So for
34%.
Carolina, it's 34. So he comes down to 5,280,000 for 3 years
Okay.
left.
That's not too that's not bad. I know he's old. He's older than I thought, but whatever. He's gonna add some veteranship on that team. He's gonna man the power play, and it replaces the offense that came with what's his name, D'Angelo. Yeah. So that's a team that is wanting to win. That's the kind of move. Same with the Pacioretty. Like, those are moves made by the team that's going for it. So I like it.
They came so close. They came so close these playoffs. So I think they wanna do it within the next 2 years. They want to make sure they got the cup.
Absolutely.
Does that put them over the hump that they're stuck on, though? Are those players good enough to take them there? With, keep in mind, Jordan Stahl continuing to regress. Brent Burns will definitely regress still.
Yes.
I
I think their core is ready to take the step up, and these guys are kind of veteran pieces. So I think the core, it's up to the core to take them to the next step. If I were to answer your question.
Yep. MJ, you got anything?
I see the Hurricanes making the Cup Finals.
Yes, my man.
I kind of like that.
I know.
I
With them
100%
adding Matt
agree.
Pacioretty and Burns, with the veteran pieces that they got, I can see them making the finals this year.
I 100% agree with MJ. I think Carolina is primed for a run.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to think about the players around them. You got to think of the players around Pacioretty who are going to help him as well.
Well,
they have a good depth.
Great
They have
forward
Aho,
core.
Teravainen, Niederreiter. On D, they have Slavin.
Niederreiter's a free agent.
Niederreiter's gone.
Okay, well, they got guys, man. Like, go through their roster. Like,
But
Svechnikov.
Totally. Like, they're
Yeah.
and they were
Aho
missing
as well.
their goalie. Their goalie was hurt their starter was hurt all through the playoffs. I think if Anderson plays, they definitely beat the Rangers. They're in the third round, and if they play there, they looked weird. They didn't look like fine in the playoffs, for my opinion. They can definitely play better. So I think they've cut their teeth in the playoffs for a few years now. I think they're primed, ready for a deep run. Oh, and Brindamore, great coach.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I agree
I
with
think
that.
Pacioretty is quite an upgrade over Niederreiter. I think he will be able to take them that extra step. It really depends on how their center depth operates. Like is Kotkaniemi going to take a step up?
They really need him to.
Is
they
Nakash going to
lost
take a step
Pittsburgh,
up?
Yes. Well,
They do have to sign Nature still, but they should right now. They
He's
still
on
have
right
8
there right
mil
now.
of space, so they can make it work, I would say.
A final prediction, though, I like it.
Yeah, it's a good one.
All right, move on, Corey.
well, let's take a look at Rangers. Let's take a look at their moves.
Yeah, so let me get them up here. Obviously, they landed one of the bigger free agents of this class, and that was really one of their only moves, I would say. They got Vinny Trocheck. 7 years. He's already 28, and he's making just a hair above 5.5 mil.
And shout out Max for guessing that right on our last video. For our last
Yeah.
I mean, we all knew they were going after a 2C to replace Strome, so it was just a matter of who they were getting. So I think that was my guess, and spot on.
Yeah. Well, this is their year to go for it, because next year they're in cap hell.
Right.
Like if you consider that they have to sign Lafreniere, Hedel, Keandre Miller.
Great player,
and probably another couple depth pieces as well. With $20 million to do that, it might be tight.
Yeah, I mean,
Might be tight.
it's a big year for them. Still very young team, but you
Yeah.
probably won't be able to sign all of those players, as mentioned.
No,
I
definitely not.
don't want to steal too much of what we're going to talk about later, but they still also have Kako unsigned this year.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't
he's
deserve much, though.
I don't see him going that far in the playoffs. So. I really don't. They need depth, and they don't really have that bottom six depth as of right now. I mean, they brought in Ryan Reeves. Yeah, he's not going to produce points. He's just a hitting guy, fights. Like with if they add another top 6 D-man, they'd be looking pretty good. But as of right now, with their cap issue, they're not going that far. I don't think.
Interesting.
They did get Yaroslav Halak, who us Canuck fans know. What
he's
a
not
Canuck
that good
legend.
anymore.
He's like 37 years old. He's gonna play maybe
Like
13
20.
games. Oh, okay. Like he's like, come on, man.
Watch him be great for them. Canuck
That'd be
fans,
tough.
oh,
That'd be
boy.
tough to see. That'd be tough to see.
I mean, they also have secret weapon Mika Zibanejad. So with him, anything is possible.
That's true.
Yeah, as long as I draft him in their pool.
I'll be taking him next season.
As long as I draft him and he's playing against Max that week.
Oh, God. But he's the max killer.
Yeah, then he's getting back-to-back hat tricks. But
All right, shall we move on, Corey?
Yeah, so I mean, Metro's kind of loaded here. We got Pittsburgh and Washington. So why don't we hit up those two teams?
Yeah, I mean, we can start with Pittsburgh. A lot of their signings, as we all have heard, are not so much for the UFAs, but more just re-signing their guys. They managed to re-sign, well, everyone. They got Letang, Raquel, Malkin. Am I missing someone here? Probably.
Rust was early on.
Rust, yeah, was early on, so they managed to keep the whole gang together.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm kind of upset Malkin didn't go somewhere else.
And how about that trade acquiring Ty Smith for John Marino? That's a big one too. Anybody got thoughts on that?
And they got Jeff Petrie as well.
Oh yeah, the Petrie deal, of
Petrie
course.
is an interesting one. I mean, both.
So they added 2 defensemen, eh? They added 2 defensemen.
Changed their decor up quite a bit.
And they re-signed John Ruda to a 3-year deal.
It's another guy, hey?
Yeah,
I
their
got
decor
him from
much
Tampa.
different.
Absolutely.
Very good depth signing. It's what the Canucks should have done, just completely changed their decor.
Yeah, but
Can't do that when you're locked into 7-year, $7 million deals for top 4 defensemen.
don't mention it. Don't mention the $20 million that are
on
our blue line, man. We know.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they have Crosby, they'll be competitive. But I think as a realistic contender, I think it's obvious that they're past their prime.
Yeah, they're as what they would call it, legacy contracts for all of them. Just basically they all finish as Penguin players. You would assume.
Yeah.
Definitely would have loved to see Malkin on another team just to see how it would look. It would just be interesting for next season.
Yeah.
But I mean,
with a healthy,
he wants absolutely. A lot of teams could have benefited with him there.
If Pittsburgh doesn't get out of the first round, is Mike Sullivan's job in danger?
Yeah, potentially.
I would say so.
Kyle, every coach's job is in danger. Okay.
No matter when they sign.
Except for John Cooper.
Okay, well.
Well, yeah.
Well,
okay. Every coach is in danger except if you win 2 cups.
Yeah.
Well, Mike Sullivan, but
true. Well,
that was years at this point.
I'd say Mike Sullivan is the best head coach in the league.
If
Pittsburgh was to get rid of him, there would be teams like firing their coaches to hire him.
But didn't we see that with Barry Trotz?
Absolutely. Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. But Barry Trotz was
not amused.
Barry Trotz won a Stanley Cup, but I wouldn't say that he was the top coach in the league. I think he just had a really strong system for 1 year. He just played his cards right for one series or one set of playoff series.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I was impressed with Pittsburgh last year in the playoffs. I think they played better than I expected, and I mean, a lot of that was due to Crosby's play, but I did not think they would perform as well as they did.
Yeah.
The Oilers can still play, so that's what I noticed. So.
Yeah, if you have Crosby, franchise player, you can't not compete.
Yeah.
Yeah, so moving on to Washington, we just talked about with Trotz and whatnot. Their big free agent signing was they were linked to for a while there. I'm pretty sure almost all of us predicted it. Was Kemper. They got him for 5 years.
Big move for
$5.25 million.
He's a great goalie. He's a great goalie.
Yeah.
Tough to see him go from the Avs because he actually played extremely well. But I mean, on Washington, I hope he kind of flourishes again and gets a chance at least making, a run in the playoffs. He's got Ovechkin and Oshie and Carlson. He's got a good team in front of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think he played that well in the playoffs. I think Colorado was just really good, and you didn't notice his mistakes as much. I think he'll be okay in Washington. Washington always seems to just be a regular season team. Aside from 1 year, they always seem to just be good and then fold in the playoffs. So and their guys are only getting older.
Yeah, they
So-
added to that with Kemper, who's already 32, and they just signed him for 5
Yeah,
years.
I feel like they're just kind of gonna float another year. Obi will score some goals. Like they're almost becoming Pittsburgh, just a less successful version. This is just my opinion. What's MJ's take on these two teams?
The Capitals did sign Dylan Strome to a 1-year deal.
Yeah,
That was a
I
huge
like
one.
that.
That was
Deal.
huge as a
That's
second line
a deal.
center.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
steal.
that's good. That's good. That is.
Yeah.
But other than that, they're in cap trouble because whenever Tom Wilson comes back, Carl Hagelin, they gotta trade someone to fit their cap.
Yeah. And unfortunately to them, looks like Backstrom, with all the rumors, could
Likely done.
be done for not only this season, but who knows how long. With, I believe it was something to do with his hip, if I'm correct.
Is he on LTIR?
No, not yet.
Well, he
He will be.
will be. Yeah.
He
Yeah.
will be.
If he goes on that,
They do
That would
save
take some top off.
9.2 mil with that.
Yeah.
So
wow.
that's big.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And plus, the Caps got Connor Brown in a trade, but
Yeah.
Connor
Yeah.
Brown is decent.
For a
like
second
that.
rounder,
That's
top
Okay.
top 9 forward.
Yeah.
So they're adding some pieces. I forgot about the Strome one as well. Okay.
Yeah.
So they'll be good. They'll still be good.
They'll make the
Classic regular
playoffs.
season.
Yeah.
I think they're a decently deep team. I just think their defense is going to get walked all over when it comes to any kind of real competition. And Kemper was shaky in the playoffs. So
Mm-hmm.
He did have an
obviously-
unfortunate injury, so who knows how much that impacted him.
yeah,
Does-
you're right.
Does it kind of seem like nowadays, besides a few teams, obviously, like defense are lacking? Better terms, like we know a bunch of teams that we've already mentioned.
I think you kind of
Well,
cut out there, but
Are teams just like heavily like favoriting offense rather than defense?
Oh,
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Well,
it's a strong argument for a lot of teams.
Goals are up big time.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
So like defensive numbers do not look good anymore. Just as goalies, like Kemper may have had a really good stat, or any goalie may have looked really good prior, but now goalies are getting lit up. So there's fewer elite looking goalies.
Like, didn't Florida average like 5 or 6 goals a game or something during the regular season? Like,
pretty much
yeah,
for like
crazy.
a strong amount of it.
Yeah.
It's- Go ahead.
I think from what I've noticed is obviously the game is still is shifting to being more fast and more skilled.
Yeah.
And that's led by the forwards. Teams are still re-signing or trying to make these big, maybe not the best skating defensemen fit this mold of the NHL, but it's just not working.
Yeah.
So that's just causing there to be not as many good defensemen anymore because they're not developing defensemen properly. In my opinion, right? Like,
Yeah.
I could be totally wrong, but
You mentioned, a lot of like small skilled forwards. I would argue it's the same for defensemen. You look like a lot of defensemen that are getting drafted. Not a lot of them are that big.
Yeah.
Obviously, a big example being Quinn Hughes.
Yeah.
Very small in stature.
he's the best defenseman on his team, so
Well,
size doesn't.
but not
Well, I guess when it comes to
defensively the
defensive
best.
play, yeah.
Offensively, obviously, we all know what he's capable of.
Yeah.
Plus,
I'm
but-
shocked that he hasn't taken a step forward in the defensive department yet. Like,
he did last year compared to
He
the year
has.
prior.
Did he?
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
good. That's
Oh
good.
yeah, big one
Yeah.
Yeah, he was stepping up to the penalty kill and
with Boudreaux, and it was a big difference.
yeah.
He's-
Mm.
He's no Norris winner, Cale Makar, but I
Okay.
mean,
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Move on.
let's move on here. We're gonna leave the Metro. Let's hit the Atlantic. Let's start off with big player here, Ottawa.
Ooh, yeah, that was big one coming in. Obviously, we talked last podcast about what they've done at the draft and before this, but they continued their strong play into the free agency, getting one of the heavily rumored Claude Giroux. Obviously going back to his hometown. We predicted it. Way to go, us.
Mikey and Max, I think, predicted that one.
Way to go, Mikey.
Yeah, Mikey Max.
So give us your thoughts, guys.
I'll start it off. I mean, with their additions, we already talked about DeBrincat, whoever else. I mean, if they don't do well this season, I'll be surprised. I think they'll make maybe a wild card or just kind of slip in, just depending on how the team's chemistry is, right? You got to think about that. We already kind of discussed it, but I just think depending on the team's chemistry, how the coach is, what he does with the power play lines and kind of just the lines in general, because Josh Norris just re-signed with them too, which is huge for them.
Big.
So they got a bunch of young guys out there that can play. They can play well. So I mean, they're on the right step. They're on the right step, much better than some other teams.
And their Achilles heel last year, goaltending. Serious upgrade in net, bringing Cam Talbot, shipping out Matt Murray. It cost them a little bit to get rid of Matt Murray, but definitely a huge upgrade.
Yeah.
And as well, Cam Talbot's going to be absolutely ready to go for this season after getting his starting job basically given away.
He has some fierce competition though, because Anton Forsberg played pretty well for Ottawa near the end of the season there. So
absolutely,
which is good.
Bunch.
Do they make the playoffs? What do you guys think, MJ? Do they make the playoffs with the additions that they've made so far?
I don't know. I'm like in between. Like they could make it, but at the same time they could miss by like 5-6 points.
Yeah, they'll.
It all depends what other teams do around them.
Yeah, the East is.
So I'm like up in the air with it. So
big one.
Go for it, Corey.
I just want to touch on, like, I think they've done a really good job with their rebuild, especially following that 2017 loss. They kind of recognized, I guess, the direction, and blew it up. And I think that was probably the best thing they could have done by acquiring picks and drafting some great young players. And I really like the 3-year Giroux deal, just to add some leadership. Giroux is still not. He's past his prime, but he's still, he's still got some Giroux left in him. And that 3-year and that cap hit is really nice. And they've actually spent some money. They've locked down a core. I don't like the Norris is a little bit, Josh Norris is a little bit on the heavy side, but the others, the Kachuk, Shabbat, is really nice. So I like the rebuild that Ottawa has done, and I really like the Giroux deal. What were you going to say, Kyle?
Wasn't me. I think somebody was about to say something about the Norris contract.
Oh yeah. I was just gonna say, like, I agree with you. It's a little steep of a contract, but I'm just like, just for him being on the team, it's like a bonus for them. Because if somebody would have tried to match the offer or something, I don't know. They're keeping a good player. It's a little bit of a steep contract, but they're keeping a good player.
It's one of those contracts nowadays where he's still very young, only 23, and it's one of those contracts where they're playing to his potential. A lot of them nowadays are getting that, where they're actually not really getting paid. Maybe not so much what they're worth right now, but what they're hoping for down the line.
Yeah, it's kind of what they'll be worth in 4 years, and hope they can capitalize on him continuing to develop and then being like a steal for 6, 7, 8.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. I personally think Ottawa is still going to miss the playoffs, even with all these moves, just because their defensive core is just a little bit too weak.
Still missing something.
Yeah, exactly. Just like the best players on their defense are either like top 6 defensemen or prospects, right?
Looks like Shabbat will have to play another year, 30 minutes a night.
Yeah. Shabbat's going to be the only one that's going to keep that defense together.
All right.
Okay. So we'll hit the Canadian teams, we'll hit the Bruins, and then I think we'll move on from there. So let's hit Toronto right now. A few little moves there. So what do we got?
Well, Toronto, they've been doing their usual thing with the past few summers. They've been tinkering, always filling out those little depth. Big one this summer though has been their goaltending. They have a completely new tandem. Matt Murray, who we just missed out on the trade, was just after our podcast, and then free agency day one they went out and got non-qualified RFA Ilya Samsonov for a cheaper deal. So wait, what do you think of that tandem, guys?
Not good.
Yeah, shaky at best. Yeah, I mean, we all know what
God
Murray's
is
capable
all.
of, but man, that might be the most interesting question easily going into the year for Toronto, and knowing their fan base, it's gonna absolutely come up every night.
What if he has a crazy year? He has a crazy year. Just shut up all the haters. He's not playing against Brock Besser a ton anymore, so he'll be all right.
I think, I'm not confident with that tandem. I think they're putting a lot of faith. Well, they have to. That's the basic thing. They don't have the money. They have to put their faith. I think Samsonov has more potential. I don't see Murray really based on what we've seen the last 4 years. I don't think he'll shine. But hey, let's see what happens.
Yeah. Question for you guys. Would you rather have Matt Murray, who's just a hair under $5 million left? They did get salary retained in that deal. Or would you rather have Jack Campbell for 5x5?
Campbell.
Yeah.
Campbell. Yeah.
Yeah.
Matt Murray's won a cup.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 times actually.
2 times, yeah.
Yeah.
2 cups. Okay, yeah. Matt Murray's won 2 cups.
So is that your pick?
I had Campbell last year for fantasy, so yeah, that's my pick. That guy.
That's a good. You know what? That's a good point. Campbell's had 1 year as a starter and not super consistent. Murray has shown some great talent. He won those 2 cups. He was great. So I think it's just the period of time since then and the concussion issues and things like that just really leaves me in limbo. But it's a good point Kyle makes.
Yeah.
Well, if Murray can return to being even 3/4 of the Murray that was in Pittsburgh, this is the 2 most crucial years for Toronto.
Oh yeah.
And then it's game over. All their players are walking.
Yeah.
So is he the guy that gets them there? Is he the guy that gets them out of the first round?
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to say. I mean,
Probably not. Probably not, honestly.
I don't see him out
I
again.
think no.
They're
At
losing in the
best,
first round
I see
again.
a round, but I don't even think so.
Yeah.
They're in a tough, Eastern Conference. I would say they're going to have a tough time, even just in their division.
Absolutely, especially taking into account they still have to shed some salary. It sounds like Kerfoot is on the trade block again. They signed Yarncroc who is a 4th liner to a 4-year deal, which is just weird.
You mean Janmark?
2.1.
Yarncroc. Quit it, Max. Don't be that way.
It took a minute to realize what I said.
Yeah, it took a second.
Okay. Let's move to the Maple Leafs.
Oh, wait.
Oh.
One last question.
Yes.
Who starts game 1 in the playoffs for them? Samsonov or Murray?
Well,
It depends during the season what happens.
Yeah, I would say who starts game 1 of the season?
Oh, for sure Murray.
Murray.
But I want you guys to predict how the season's going to go for them.
Well, Murray will
God.
either be the backup or hurt. So I'm gonna say Samson. And that's an easy one for me.
There you go.
Yeah, I think their tandem going into playoffs will be Samsonov and then that Chalgren, if that's how you pronounce it. But I think Samsonov, very interesting. I mean, could have a good year, could struggle, especially under that spotlight. And he might get a lot of games bank on Murray's health.
I mean, Samsonov's a guy that he's a younger goalie, but he has not taken over the role of starter. He's been a tandem backup kind of guy. You know, like, and he had the chance to take over Washington. So he either does it with Toronto or he doesn't, I guess. And I don't know what they do if he doesn't. I mean, I guess Murray starts, but
yeah, this is really a make or break year for his career. It's either he's going to be a forever backup or he's actually going to get a starting role.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. 100%.
What's the next squad?
Okay, we're gonna hit Toronto's biggest crutch. We're gonna go to Boston. So take a look at that.
I've been waiting for this one.
Well, I mean,
There we go.
pass it over to MJ.
We've basically done nothing. You guys, nothing except that one trade with Pavel Zacha and Eric Holla. But other than that, we just signed AHLers. Like, come on, Don, what the hell are you doing? But I mean, with the trade with Pavel Zacha, I mean, he's young, 25. I don't know where he's gonna play yet. Depending with Krejci or Bergeron coming back, who knows? But I mean, at the beginning of the year, a McAvoy, a Marchand, and Grzelcyk won't be playing until like November, December.
Yeah.
So either way, it's gonna be a rough couple months at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, it could hurt them in the long run for the playoffs if they want to make it.
I was just gonna say, if you start off slow, like, what are the odds you're gonna catch up to the next team in points if you're losing all these games in the first 2 months because your star players are out?
Look at the Canucks' slow start, and they never made the playoffs.
Yeah.
Okay, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, new coach as well, so any thoughts on that, MJ?
I miss Bruce. That's all I gotta say. I miss Bruce Cassidy.
Who did they hire again? Sorry.
Jim Montgomery.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh,
He was the St. Louis assistant.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
yeah,
are
Go ahead.
basically like 1-2 years left to try and go for it, or probably this year because there's been rumors that Bergeron 1-year deal, same with Krejci. So this is like our last year. Just blow it up and go for it.
okay.
Like,
Big
all
one
or
as
nothing.
well, being Pasternak is a UFA after this year. And there's already rumors
they've been in talks.
Yeah,
but
what's going to happen there?
I do not want to lose him. That's as simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know
If
why
we lose him, Don has to be fired. Simple as that. Can't
He
lose
should have been fired.
You better not lose him for nothing as well.
Yeah.
God.
He should have been fired months ago. But
Yep.
nope.
Well, it sounds like the players are happy that there's a new coach, so hopefully that will.
At least DeBrusque is, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted him gone. Not gonna lie.
Wow.
Whatever.
What's wrong with the Brusque?
I don't know.
Just streaky as hell.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But I mean, after the trade deadline last season, he did good with Bergeron and Marchand on the first line. But who knows what's gonna happen?
What overall did DeBrusque go again?
Ooh, it's a good question. Let me quickly find it.
Because he went in that
He
Beckman
was
draft, didn't he?
the 2015 draft. He was 14th. Yeah.
Yeah, let's not talk about that, Jeff.
Yeah,
shall we?
that was part of
Sorry,
their 3
sorry.
picks in a row.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Oh.
yeah. I was gonna say they could have gotten some studs. Matt Barzal.
We could have had Barzal, Shabbat, and Kyle Tunner.
They could have had a lot of options.
Yeah.
We picked up the Rust, Jakub Zaboral that's hurt, and Zach Senyshyn that we traded to get Josh Brown. Like, not good players at all.
Oh man, that's a Jim Benning move right there, man. I'll tell you that.
But now Pavel Zacha, that's an improvement on Curtis Lazar, right? Is that kind of filling that hole?
Well, they also traded Holla.
Most
For
likely
Zacha.
Holla, because Holla wasn't a good second line center.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, if Krejci doesn't come back, you could put Zacha in the second line to have Hall, Zacha, and Pasta. So
Yeah.
that could work, but who knows what's gonna happen?
When did
Yeah.
Charlie Coyle get a $5.25 million deal?
Oh God.
What did he do?
2019.
What did he
What
do?
did he do? He didn't deserve it, did he? Oh, we got traded from. Okay, never mind. That was
I
probably.
mean, at the time he was good, and he had a one rough season in 2020, and I mean he improved this past season, but 5.25 on a third line—that's a little too much.
Yes.
That's brutal.
Yeah, your
That's
most
brutal.
long,
It is what it
the longest left forward on contract, essentially. That's not great.
Yeah.
All right, should
Then-
we move on?
Then you got Nick
Okay.
Foligno, that guy.
Yeah, God.
3.8 for one more year, dude. Come on.
It's supposed to be a huge signing last offseason. He was supposed to be that second line center to replace Krejci, and that just didn't materialize.
He had 17 points all
17.
last year.
Yikes.
2 goals last year, too.
That's
Solid.
I love
lead
it
per
here.
goal.
Okay. Let's move to Detroit. A lot of movement there. A non-playoff team maybe getting better. So let's hit that up.
Yeah, there's a lot to sign here. Obviously, Steve Yzerman had a lot of money to spend, and I think he used almost all of it. I'll name off some names here. You got Dominique Kubalik, you got Oli Mata, Ben Chirot, Andrew Kopp, and David Perron, all multi-million-dollar signings.
man, Stevie Y. He did what he had to do
Right.
to improve the team. He did what he had to do.
Yeah.
Detroit's been pretty bad for years, and now they have Andrew Kopp, who's a big body and he can put points up, and they got David Perron, who's a certified goal scorer. He helped St. Louis in every way possible, in my opinion, at least.
I hate that guy.
Well, you can't deny that he's good. Like he's gonna help Detroit for sure.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
I think free agents, I'm always hesitant to sign them, and signing a lot of them, I don't know if is the best idea. You're either you hope you get you hope you get face value. Anything more than that is kind of a plus. So I don't know if signing a lot of them is the way to go, but it's my opinion.
I think Kopp was the only signing that I was like, ooh, I don't know if that fits into their plan. Everyone else was a 1 or 2 year deal, which can kind of be there for this season and get traded next season at the trade deadline or something. Because they have a lot of young players moving in and up. So I don't know. That's kind of my thoughts on their off season.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
their defense is pretty solid in the sense that they got Chirot, who's a big body and he does what
Ooh,
Snyder does.
Chirot, I didn't see that contract. Oof.
He got
Oof.
overpaid, though. Let's be real here.
Oof. Chirot's a bad contract. Oh, damn.
It's a bad contract, but he's a big body that can play the same. He'll just be aggressive, just like Snyder is. And that's what Yzerman loves, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
Snyder. Yeah, he'll be good. Yeah.
I
What's
don't
the
know. I
next
can
team
see
there?
these
Corey?
guys making the wild card for sure, Detroit.
Yeah.
Wild card?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, Sider and Raymond, they got these really good kids, right? And they got Larkin still, so they got the young core.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right, what's our next
Max.
team?
Max, any ideas on Detroit?
I mean, it'd be interesting. They're definitely a team on the come up, and I kind of like some of their signings. Good to influence on the young team with a lot of prospects. So, and not the worst terms for a lot of them, I would say. Chirot, arguably, too much. But Perron for 2 years, that's very good, I would say.
Yeah. Okay, I think I'll just open it up to the last couple teams here. We got the Tampa Bay Lightning, obviously re-signing a bunch of players, and then Montreal Canadians kind of on the opposite end. with their young squad. So any thoughts on those?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the big one with Tampa that day was not 1, not 2, but 3 extensions that all don't actually kick in till the year after.
Yeah.
Obviously, Eric Cernak, Cirelli, and Sergachev all getting 8-year deals. What are our thoughts on that?
Deep for a couple.
God.
Sergachev, I haven't really. He's a good defenseman by all means, but that's a lot of money to pay for him.
Years too.
That too.
Don't give long-term deals unless they're like elite or like, you know, your top players that you know will be consistent. Those 3 years are like, they're basically like thank yous for winning us cups.
Oh
like,
yeah.
Those are bad. Like 8 years, like their team is gonna be in bad cap trouble, like at minimum 5 years from now.
Minimum next off season.
If earlier
Next
than
off
that.
season, they're not looking good.
Yeah.
It will come back to bite them in the butt. I don't think. I mean, obviously it's Tampa, so like you can never rule them out. But I just don't see them being a cup contender anymore. Making the playoffs, absolutely, but they're one injury away from just not getting past the first or second round.
For sure. Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the same. They got a lot of guys signed long term right now, but a lot of them are somewhat getting up there in age. So, you know, who knows? These 8-year deals are so risky because you don't truly know what your team will be like in those couple years. The NHL changes fast.
Yeah.
So it's hard to lock in so many people like that for that long.
You pretty much got to do what the 2010 Chicago Blackhawks did. You lock in your core, and then you just change your what do you call it? Your surrounding group.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Depth.
Your depth. Yeah, you just kind of change your depth, and you keep it fresh, and you find what you need to, and you just lock in a core that is going to peak together.
Yeah.
But you know what? The Tampa won 2 cups, so who the hell cares?
It's hard to say. Yeah, if that's
At the
maybe
end
they
of the
get
day.
another.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that clears up pretty much all the free agency type of deals that we got going on. Besides the UFAs and RFAs, which I can get into anytime.
Well, why don't you fire away then?
All right, so we'll start off with there's still a couple players on the board, the big names that are on there, just like Louis Eriksson.
I'm just playing. We got obviously Mr. Stanley Cup himself, Nazem Kadri. He hasn't signed yet. I know we talked about it earlier, but he said Colorado is one of his choices, right? I think a couple other posts said Winnipeg, and I forget there was one other team. I can't remember, but I know there was another team on there.
Some Islanders, wasn't it?
I believe it was.
It's mainly just he wants to go to a cup contender.
Yeah, anybody with a cup contender, pretty much. I mean,
could be a lot of teams.
So a cup contender like Winnipeg?
Yeah.
I don't know why that was listed, but for some reason, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of teams are in the trade market right now, trying to make room for him. Obviously, the Avs, they'd have to move some people, like we already mentioned.
What about Calgary?
That's another team, yeah.
They're replaced
He would be first line center. He would be taking. Oh no, he wouldn't. Would he? No.
He would.
Yeah, Lindholm can play the wing, I would say.
Yeah, because Lindholm can shove over to the right wing, Kachuk on the left side. That would be a solid top line.
That would
but
be a great
Kadri
line.
also doesn't. I don't think he wants to go to Calgary because
he vetoed the trade before there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, maybe things change, but I can see that.
Absolutely.
They got the money to spend on him now without Gaudreau.
Yeah, exactly. I think they'd want to run. It seems like Colorado is also really trying, and it seems like he's pretty open to re-signing. So that seems like a pretty likely option as well.
I hope so. I know that contract would
But-
also handcuff us in 3 to 5 years,
It would.
which would suck. But
That's the thing. Like, can they afford to re-sign Kadri with McKinnon coming off?
they can, yeah, because Johnson's $6 million contract comes off the book next year, so I think
Hey,
he'll
there
just
we go.
re-sign
There
like
you
a
go.
$1 million deal,
Okay.
and basically all that money will just shuffle over to McKinnon's contract. So there won't be a huge like change in like where the money's allocated. It'll just be one player makes a lot less, one player makes a lot more. But I think with the teams trying to sign Kadri right now, the players that those teams are trying to move out, they're getting like 20 cents on the dollar for them, and that's really what's holding this process up.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, we got a couple other big ones. So number one on the cap friendly list here is actually PK Subban. Has anybody heard anything about Subban?
Nothing.
No. I
No,
think
hey?
TNT,
Any-
Sportsnet, maybe?
Any teams you guys think you would fit on, MJ?
Boston.
If that actually happened, oh my god.
For-
I can kind of see PK going to
Drum roll.
the Rangers.
Ooh,
Ooh, he'd love it.
damn.
He would eat that up. Subban would eat that up for sure.
Because they need another top 6 guy, and I think he's the perfect fit to go to the Rangers.
All
They
right.
got but
How much
No,
money
maybe
do you think he gets paid?
Like,
Oh.
like,
top like 1.5.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah.
That's what he
I was
should be.
Nothing less than that.
I was gonna say $2 million.
Yeah,
mhm.
for 1 year, probably 2 year.
Yeah.
After making
What
what, 9 mil?
Yeah, 9 mil for like 5 years,
God.
something like that.
All right, let's go to the next one, Mike.
One of the top D-man still left over, John Klingberg. John Klingberg.
Ooh.
Heard a lot of rumors that he's waiting for the Canucks to open up some cap space. I know Canucks love their Swedish players, so I could definitely see him going there because they do need a right-handed defenseman. They do
Right.
need a good right-handed defenseman, which honestly I wouldn't mind him on the team. I got his stats here. So this season in 74 games played, he had 47 points. He was a minus 28, but I mean, again, he is on defense and he does play a lot, right? And he's 29 years old. So any thoughts from that? What teams besides the Canucks he could potentially go to?
Well, I think the only other rumor I've heard is that he could go to Detroit, but I think
Seattle.
that's also an interesting. That too, actually, yeah. Both of them would be interesting fits. I would actually kind of love him to go to the Canucks. That only if though Myers gets moved out.
Yeah.
Yes.
It has to
But
be one of the
does-
big names that has to go.
I feel like we don't really diversify. Yeah, he's a right-handed, but then we have Hughes, Ekman-Larsson, and Klingberg, who are all kind of like supposed to be offensive defensemen.
Absolutely. That was gonna
Yeah.
be my concern that I was gonna bring
Yeah.
up is you can't have 3 defensemen that don't know how to play defense.
Yeah, so I really don't like that, to be honest. I'd rather have like, I don't know, like a defense, just throwing a name like a Heiskanen or like a big, McDonough or something, like a defenseman that's more just like that.
Yeah, like a stay-at-home D-man type of thing.
I mean, I would
Totally.
love Heiskanen.
Like
I was thinking of Dallas. I was just throwing a name out, but so yeah, that's my only thoughts there. And how much like if we're signing a free agent Klingberg, we're gonna dole out a ton of cash again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're overpaying for OEL, and we're overpaying for Myers. So yeah, one of them would have to go. But it's like, how many defensemen are we gonna overpay? At some point, we need to draft probably like not a Makar, but we need some kind of defenseman to make an impact.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that.
Yeah.
So that's just my thoughts.
Yeah.
How about
Again,
Ottawa? We were talking about them having just weak defense. I'm
yeah.
sure
Yeah.
they could move
I-
some pieces around. They have the
That's-
cap room for it.
That's what I was thinking. Like, ideally in my head, you somehow can move Myers to Ottawa for really anything. I don't care.
Anything to
Travis
say.
Future beg bucks.
Travis
Future
Hamonic,
considerations.
Yeah.
Yeah, Travis Hamonic. No, I mean, it'd be interesting. I mean,
Like Klingberg's got options for sure. Like
He's-
teams aren't going to pass up on it if they need him for
yeah.
sure.
Again,
Yeah.
similar to Kadri, I think he's waiting to sign with a team that doesn't have the cap space right now and is making a trade, or else he probably
okay.
would have signed already.
Right.
Very
My
true.
take.
Well, I'll mention one more bigger FA that we talked about earlier, Nino Niederreiter, who's 29 years old, and he's this season he played 75 games and he got 44 points in 75 games.
Not bad.
No.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like any cup contender would love to have him.
A little bit of depth, right? Too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong. Yeah, I have no idea where he would go.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's hard to say.
I think right now, like a team like Nashville or Dallas are looking for a player like that. They can play top 6, top 9 minutes.
Yeah.
Those are actually two good shouts. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, or even like
It's
could
impossible to guess.
arguably say the Islanders, but I feel like they're trying to do something more with because they haven't done anything so far. We haven't mentioned. them.
I don't think they know what they're doing.
Yeah,
It doesn't seem like it. No, it doesn't
I don't-
seem like it.
Yeah, maybe their phone's not connected or something. They're not getting phone calls. So I don't know. They've
Yeah, they're
made
with
one
Rogers.
signing so far.
It's,
So
yeah, I'm not too
they're
sure.
sleeping right now. That's for sure.
So yeah, those were kind of the top players left, I would say, that haven't signed with anyone yet. But we do have some restricted free agents on our hand. We do have a Patrick Laine, Matthew Tkachuk, Dubois, Kapanen, Mangiapane. Those players. What do you guys think?
Ooh.
Yeah.
I think Kachuk locks up. I think he might it might go a little late into the season, but I think he gets locked up.
Okay.
Like maybe training camp. That'll be my prediction. Yeah, I think training camp they lock him up.
MJ, thoughts?
I think that Columbus is going to trade Patrick Laine.
Ooh.
I like that prediction.
I don't know to who, but I think that they're
Winnipeg.
going to trade Laine. Back to
Ooh,
Winnipeg.
back to Winnipeg.
Or
For Dubois.
Dubois. Yeah, it's so tough. I heard Laine's name that was linked to Carolina for a while. Obviously, that kind of dried up, but
I think with
he's
Pacioretty
just
going there,
so
they're done with that.
inconsistent.
Well, hang on. Do you think they're gonna sign him and then trade him?
I think they'll trade him, I'm not going to speak for you guys, but I think they'll trade him, and the team that he gets traded to will sign him. I don't
But
think there'll be an offer sheet.
So that they'd be what, trading his rights?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
that's my prediction.
Do you guys think there's going to be any offer sheets at all? Because there's still like players like Jesper Bratt, Miles Wood, you got Puljujärvi, Yamamoto. Do we think there's going to be any offer sheets this season?
I think there will
think
be.
so.
I think the
Yeah.
big name I've heard, and a very underrated name, is from Toronto, that Rasmus Sandin.
Yeah?
Great player, and Toronto, I don't think has the cap space, at least right now, to sign him. So if a team were to jump on him right now, I think they can catch them off guard. Very young
Okay.
defenseman. I mean,
And the exact same thing with Kapanen in Pittsburgh too.
yeah. Could see
They
a
have
few
0
things
cap
like that.
space. Team can take him for a pretty good.
Yeah, because either they accept the offer sheet and then they're absolutely cap strapped and have to trade a few guys, or they don't and you get them. So
Yeah.
I think someone's gonna go after Yamamoto from the Oilers.
Yeah, it's a
Ooh,
good
actually,
one.
that
Pulley,
is
RV, and
yeah.
Yamamoto. Two
Oh.
big ones.
For sure, because Oilers have no cap space right now. So someone should bounce on that guy and put an off sheet out.
Absolutely. I think Pulley RV would also be a great pickup for any team. He's got all right advanced stats, but like I see him as like another version of like Nichushkin coming. So
So do
he
you
could be
think he'll
sneaky.
pan out then? Like
I think
Nichushkin?
so. I think so.
I would say so. He's still
Yeah,
only
it might take
24.
It might take him a little bit longer, another year or so, but I think if he's on a team where he's not forced to be like one of the top offensive output players, I think he'd be a pretty good option.
Yeah, if he gets more than 8 minutes a night, maybe too. Sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that pretty much sums it up for RFAs. There's also an Ethan Bear. There's a couple other guys there too. Yeah, Ethan Bear, Ottinger. Yeah, I mean, Noah Dobson. But yeah, that pretty much sums it up for the RFAs and the UFAs.
Upson
Yeah.
would be a good one too, but obviously Islanders would match any offer sheet that comes by.
Yeah, I would love for the Canucks to get Dobson if that's ever possible.
Yeah. Oh, what else are we having to chat about?
I mean,
We're already around the hour and 40 mark, a little bit longer than we did last podcast, but obviously there's
Just
so much
barely,
more
yeah.
to, right?
Yeah, if you're still with us, thanks.
Then thank
Thank-
you.
Yeah,
Thank
you
you
either
so
have
much.
a really long lunch break or you've got a really long commute or something.
Yeah.
Shout out Aaron for watching this in the car.
So
Off Max, another guy.
Kyle mentioned earlier that he had written down like some of the predictions we made last podcast of who was right, who was wrong. I'm curious, kind of like maybe we can kind of end it there after that. But let's see what Kyle's got.
I think we did a pretty good job for guessing where some of the players would end up.
Yeah, we talked about it briefly during it, but I think there might be a few more
Yeah, so Max had the most correct predictions. He predicted
Ooh.
Trocheck to the Rangers. Him and Mikey both predicted Giroux to Ottawa. Max and myself were correct in that Murray would end up in Toronto, and I was also correct about Kemper ending up in Washington. But I think we were all on the same page on that one, between either Edmonton or Washington.
Mhm.
And then Corey with Malkin and Campbell. So
Okay.
Yeah.
so we all had one at least, which is awesome, and hopefully have another one when Kadri re-signs with Colorado.
Yeah. Who knows? How long do we think that's going to go on for?
Could be another week, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't think he's in a rush to sign a contract. I think he's going
God,
to
no.
make whatever he wants to make whenever he wants to sign the paper. So
Yeah, he's got
Yeah.
time.
it's not like players are going to come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what Anaheim and Phoenix do to get to the cap floor, especially Anaheim. They still need to spend another 10 million.
They
So,
have so much money. And
yeah.
also, quickly mention it, they signed Ryan Strome. Very weird, I would say. For me.
Yeah, that was a weird one.
Out of all places there.
Yeah. Like, weird. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he'll do great there. I'm sure he'll be able to
Yeah.
help that team continue to be a bottom feeder so that they can get some more good draft picks.
Yeah. Another thing they did as well, we didn't really talk about, is all the non-qualified RFAs this year. They had 3 of them.
Yeah, Sonny Milano.
Biggest ones being Milano and Sam Steele.
Sam Steele was a weird one too.
Both those names I just mentioned haven't actually signed for any team. So still able to go back to Anaheim, I guess.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I mean, Strome with like Zegras and like Troy Terry, man, like those kids are so young and so good. Like, I feel like they'll be decent coming up.
Yeah.
They got a few years. That's for sure.
Yeah. Troy Terry will be getting paid next off season. He'll be an RFA, so it's good that they're not spending money in stupid places.
Same with Zegras, depending on how the year goes for him.
Yeah,
he's RFA.
Absolutely. That should be a fun off season for them next year.
Pretty much every off season's like this now.
This one is especially exciting. Last one, I don't remember being this exciting. I thought it was boring.
Yeah, I don't remember watching a free agency. Not that I do it often, but this year I tuned in for the first few hours, and oh my god, I was blown away.
I mean, it all stemmed from the draft, right? Like, the draft was exciting. Yeah. At least the first round was, and then we got into free agency, and all these guys were getting signed to teams that nobody thought they would get signed to. And it's going to be an interesting season, to say the least. Like, all our predictions,
definitely
they're all
go
50,
through.
50. Like I said last podcast, it just depends on everything, man. Like, you never know. Like, Ottawa could do extremely well. Ottawa could, just still be a bottom feeder. Who knows, though? But
yeah,
time will tell.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again to our loyal followers for tuning into episode number 2 of the Chel Stars podcast.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Another fun, successful talky talk. I do not mind doing this. I could go on for hours talking about it, but we appreciate you guys for staying and listening to us ramble on for an hour and a half.
And thank you to our guest star.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
We'll
I
definitely have
appreciate
to
it.
have you back. Especially
Yeah,
during
yeah,
the season.
Yes.
Yep.
Have a good time.
And I know all of us are looking more forward to it getting a bit more structured as we keep it going, but we'll get in that groove real soon.
Thank all the followers for following our non-structured podcast, but we'll definitely get at least it out every week. It might not be the same date every week, but we'll go.
Perfect.
And we also, just before we end it, we do have an Instagram that Max made up. It is Chel Stars. We're going to maybe post some bloopers and, when we mess up, or just post some funny stuff on there.
We don't know a great one from earlier.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will not spoil it, but you'll want to check it out.
All right. Thanks for skating on by.
Good night.
Oh, Jesus. All right, Mikey, hit us with the outro. Alright, just play the fucking music.
Yeah, just play the music.
We appreciate it.